Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome back to this channel on narcissism. Today we are going to talk about something that many people who have ever been involved with a narcissist want to know about. It's actually one of the most requested videos I get asked for. So today we're going to take on narcissistic collapse. And if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up because that really helps me in my little narcissistic world. So let's take this on. Now before I get to that, please make sure you subscribe. Well, it refers to a moment or moments where the false self of the narcissist, which they work so hard to construct, crumbles. But the key thing here is that this is not just a momentary lapse. Remember that the false self of the narcissist is based on lies. They may lie about their accomplishments, their relationships, their appearance, their intelligence, their status, whatever it is they need to bolster themselves and to get validation from others. But they are expert liars, and most of the time they are able to keep these lies from being uncovered because narcissism is associated with a certain level of vitality, physical attractiveness, power, and even dominance. These things generally peak in midlife, and as people age, they lose the vitality, they may lose their attractiveness, they may be further from any kind of power or status. Many narcissists seek out positions of authority, power, or prominence in their workplaces, their communities, or even online. Remember that validation and admiration are like oxygen to the narcissist. And so, if they lose that, it can be extremely painful. Abandonment can lead to narcissistic collapse because it undermines the narcissist's belief that they are always desired and sought after. It is only visible to people who are close to the narcissist and see the contrast between the false self and the true self. Most people who encounter the narcissist will only see the false self and may not recognize that there was ever a collapse. Witnessing a narcissistic collapse can be disturbing and confusing. It's like watching someone who you thought you knew suddenly decompensate in front of you, and it can be hard to reconcile the image you have of them with what you're seeing. It can also be sad because in a strange way, the narcissistic collapse is a form of death. The person that you once knew, the person that they presented to the world, that person is gone. So if you are the only person who knows how wonderful the narcissist is and you go away, they may collapse, and you will never know it. They may assume that people will always want to be around them because they are so wonderful, special, beautiful, talented, or powerful. And when they are abandoned, it can be extremely disorienting and destabilizing. In extreme cases of abandonment, the narcissist may decompensate to the point of psychosis. This can happen if other people start to see through their lies or if they engage in so much gaslighting and manipulation that people walk away. The narcissist depends on other people for their sense of self-worth, and so the loss of other people can be devastating. And in that way, the cycle of narcissistic collapse and reconstruction can continue. Losing status can be a very difficult thing for a narcissist to process. They may believe that they should always be recognized and rewarded for their efforts and that their status should continue to grow. But of course, that's not always the case. If they are passed over for promotions, if they lose social standing, or if they lose the spotlight in some other way, they can feel devastated and humiliated. It can undermine their sense of superiority and lead to narcissistic collapse. And these things leave them feeling more vulnerable and insecure. They may feel that they no longer deserve the admiration that they once got. They may feel that they have to compete with younger people and they may not have the resources to do so. So they may feel like their best days are behind them and they may become sullen and resentful. In working with older clients, I have seen how the narcissistic wounds of aging can lead to a kind of despair and depression that can undermine their ability to maintain their false self. But occasionally, and sometimes due to the very hubris and grandiosity that makes them think they can get away with anything, they get caught. Because they threaten the sense of vitality, strength, and attractiveness that are part of the grandiose self-image. Illness and disability can mean that the narcissist looks different, maybe even more frail than they thought they looked. They may feel that they are no longer sexually attractive or competitive. They may feel that people aren't interested in them anymore. And this can be especially true if they were quite vain or had a lot of status before the illness or disability. And all of this can lead to a narcissistic collapse. We often see this in cases where the narcissist may have lost their looks, their health, or their mobility, and they may not know how to handle that. When they do, it's almost like kryptonite to the narcissist. Being caught in a lie leaves them vulnerable, and depending on who catches them in a lie, it may also bring into question their competence, their trustworthiness, their reliability, their credibility, all qualities that people generally want in relationships but are completely undercut by the narcissistic pattern of lying. If a person gets caught in enough lies, over and over again, eventually the false self that they've constructed comes tumbling down. There is something about the narcissistic collapse that is sort of terminal for the narcissist, and once they see through the lies, the facade starts to crumble. They may start to recognize that the narcissist doesn't deserve the admiration they claim to, or they don't deserve the status, the love, the admiration that they profess to have. As people see through the lies of the narcissist becomes less and less appealing and the facade starts to fall apart. Once they've experienced that, there's no going back. This can be particularly devastating if it happens in public or in a group setting. For example, someone who has been admiring the narcissist suddenly stops doing so when they learn that the narcissist has engaged in multiple affairs or is deeply in debt or is under investigation at work. The narcissist's false self is predicated on the admiration and approval of others. And so if those people who admire the narcissist turn away, it can be extremely damaging. They can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle. The false self that they've constructed is gone and they are left with either nothing or someone very diminished. Now, this is different than a narcissistic meltdown, although there may be some overlap. Well, again, it comes down to ego injury. In fact, the more grandiose the narcissist, the thinner the veneer of the false self. So even small slights can cause narcissistic collapse in more grandiose narcissists. But there are certain patterns that tend to cause more significant ego injuries that then lead to a more significant narcissistic collapse. A meltdown is a kind of tantrum-like behavior. It can look like rage, anger, irritability, sometimes even tears. But the key thing about the narcissistic collapse is that it's not just an expression of dysregulation. There's actually a sense in which the false self and the grandiose self-presentation drops away, leaving the true self of the narcissist exposed. You see the narcissist in all of their sort of shame, insecurity, small-minded, petty ugliness. And it's a pretty jarring experience for the people who are around them. So what is narcissistic collapse and why do so many people want to know about it? Now, narcissistic collapse can look like confusion, self-doubt, insecurity, maybe even desperation. It can look like sullenness and petulance. What causes narcissistic collapse? Let's start with the first one, being caught in a lie. Another way that this can happen is through exposure. People who know the narcissist well enough may come to understand that the narcissist is full of hot air. Another way this can happen is that the narcissist can be outed. That means that other people may discover the truth about the narcissist. Number 3, age. Sometimes the facade of the narcissist can start to crack as they age. Next one, illness or disability. Like age, illness, and disability can shake the narcissistic worldview. Number 5, losing status. Narcissism and status are very closely linked. Number 6, losing the supply of other people. Narcissistic collapse can happen when the narcissist loses the admiration or attention of other people. And number 7, abandonment. One of the challenges with understanding narcissistic collapse is that it is such a hidden phenomenon. In fact, one of the ways that the narcissist may manage the pain of a narcissistic collapse is to find new sources of supply, people who will admire them, listen to them, validate them, or submit to them. And finally, this is not a good place to be for anyone. Thanks again.